Get away from here now! You have ruined everything! You have ruined everything! Look at this mess!
The bowl shattered against the pavement. "Get away from here," the restaurant manager yelled. The homeless man stumbled backward as pieces of ceramic scattered around his feet. Several people standing nearby laughed. Others pulled out their phones to record. No one stepped forward to help. No one except one woman. "Stop!" The crowd turned. A young waitress rushed from across the street and stood between the manager and the homeless man. "What's wrong with you?" she demanded. "He's a human being." The manager scoffed. "Then you feed him." Without saying another word, the woman picked up the untouched sandwich that had fallen from the tray and handed it to the homeless man. "There you go." For a moment, their eyes met. The homeless man looked genuinely surprised. Not because of the food. Because she was the first person that day who had looked at him like he mattered. What the woman didn't know was that the man standing in front of her wasn't homeless at all. His name was Ethan Carter. And he was a billionaire. But before revealing how one of the richest men in the country ended up begging on a sidewalk, there's something you need to understand. Because Ethan wasn't searching for money. He was searching for something money could never buy. Love. And what happened after he met this woman would change both of their lives forever. If you enjoy emotional stories with shocking twists and powerful endings, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. You won't want to miss what's coming next. 8 months earlier, Ethan Carter sat alone in a penthouse overlooking the city. The view was spectacular. The silence was unbearable. At 35 years old, he had everything most people spent their lives chasing. Private jets. Luxury homes. A billion-dollar business empire. Fame. Power. Respect. At least that's what everyone thought. The truth was far different. The people around him respected his money. Not him. His phone rang. The caller ID displayed the name of his girlfriend, Vanessa. Ethan smiled and answered. "Hey." "Hi, baby," Vanessa said sweetly. "Are we still having dinner tonight?" "Of course." "I can't wait." After hanging up, Ethan stared at the skyline. For months, he had convinced himself that Vanessa was different. That she loved him for who he was. Not for what he had. That illusion shattered later that night. Ethan arrived at the restaurant 20 minutes early. As he approached the private dining room, he heard voices inside. Vanessa was talking to her friends. He was about to walk in when one sentence stopped him cold. "Do you actually love him?" one of her friends asked. Vanessa laughed. A cruel laugh. The kind that comes from someone who thinks they're safe. "Love him," she replied. "Please." The blood drained from Ethan's face. Her friends giggled. "So why stay with him?" "Because Ethan Carter is worth billions." More laughter. One friend leaned forward. "What if he lost everything?" Vanessa didn't even hesitate. "I'd leave before the bankruptcy papers finished printing." The room erupted. Ethan stood frozen outside the door. Every word felt like a knife. Every laugh cut deeper. Then Vanessa delivered the final blow. "Let's be honest. If he wasn't rich, I wouldn't look at him twice." Ethan quietly turned around. He never entered the room. He never called her again. The relationship ended that night. But the heartbreak didn't. For weeks, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about those words. If he wasn't rich. If he wasn't rich. If he wasn't rich. The phrase echoed through his mind. Eventually, he began asking himself a dangerous question. How many people in his life actually cared about him? The answer terrified him. One evening, Ethan met with his oldest friend, Michael. "I need your opinion." Michael raised an eyebrow. "That sounds serious." "It is." Ethan explained everything. The betrayal. The loneliness. The constant doubt. When he finished, Michael sighed. "You can't seriously think everyone is using you. Can you prove they're not?" Michael had no answer. Ethan leaned back. "What if I removed the money?" "What do you mean?" "What if nobody knew who I was?" Michael stared at him. Then he laughed. When Ethan didn't laugh back, the smile disappeared. "You're serious?" "Completely." "Ethan, that's insane." "Maybe." "And dangerous." Probably. But I need to know. Michael rubbed his temples. You want to pretend to be poor?
No.
Ethan's voice became quiet. I want to find out who sees me when the money disappears. A week later, the plan began. The transformation was shocking. His expensive suits disappeared. His luxury watch vanished. His designer haircut was replaced with an uneven trim. A realistic beard altered his appearance completely. Worn-out clothes completed the disguise. Even Michael struggled to recognize him. Wow. Ethan looked in the mirror. For the first time in years, nobody would see a billionaire staring back. They would see a nobody. He adopted the name Daniel. His security team would secretly monitor him from a distance. Only 3 people knew the truth. Everyone else would believe he was homeless. At first, Ethan treated it like an experiment, a social observation, a temporary adventure. Then reality hit him. Hard. On his first day, people avoided eye contact. On the second day, a businessman accidentally bumped into him. Instead of apologizing, the man cursed at him. On the third day, a woman grabbed her purse and crossed the street, as if he were a criminal. Ethan couldn't believe it. He hadn't changed. Only his appearance had. Yet people treated him like a completely different human being. One afternoon, he sat on a park bench listening to conversations around him. Nobody acknowledged his existence. It was as though he had become invisible. That night, he returned to the small shelter where he had been staying. For the first time since beginning the experiment, he considered quitting. Maybe Michael had been right. Maybe this was foolish. Maybe he already had his answer. Then the next morning happened. And everything changed. Ethan was sitting outside a small cafe when a woman emerged carrying a tray of food. She noticed him immediately. Unlike everyone else, she didn't look away. She walked directly toward him. "Have you eaten today?" she asked. Ethan hesitated.
No.
The woman smiled. "Then you should probably start with this." She handed him a sandwich. The same woman who would later stand up for him outside the restaurant. The same woman whose kindness would turn his entire world upside down. Her name was Emma. And neither of them had any idea that this simple conversation was the beginning of something extraordinary. Emma didn't walk away after giving him the sandwich. She sat down on the opposite bench like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You're not from around here," she said. Ethan, still Daniel to her, nodded slowly. "Something like that." She studied him for a moment. Not with disgust. Not with fear. Just curiosity. "I'm Emma," she said. He hesitated. For a split second, he almost told her the truth. The real name. The real identity. The billions behind his name. But he stopped himself. "Daniel," he replied. "Nice to meet you, Daniel." And just like that, something unfamiliar settled in Ethan's chest. Peace. Over the next few days, Emma kept showing up. Sometimes with food. Sometimes just to talk. Sometimes just to sit beside him in silence while she took a break from work. Ethan learned she worked at a small diner nearby. Long hours. Low pay.
No complaints.
"My life isn't exciting," she said once, laughing softly. Ethan almost smiled at that. If only she knew. One afternoon, she sat down looking more tired than usual. "You okay?" he asked. Emma forced a smile. "Just work stuff." He didn't push. But something in her eyes told him there was more. A few days later, everything changed. Emma arrived late, her hand shaking. "I got fired," she said flatly. Ethan straightened. What happened? A customer was insulting another waitress. I told him to stop. The manager said I embarrassed the restaurant. She laughed bitterly. So now I have no job. For the first time since meeting her, Ethan saw something crack in her strength. Fear. "What will you do?" he asked quietly. "I don't know," she admitted. "My mom's sick. The hospital bills are already behind." That sentence hit him harder than expected. Emma looked away quickly, as if ashamed of her own vulnerability. "I'll figure it out," she said. "I always do." But that night, Ethan didn't sleep. For the first time, the experiment stopped being about curiosity. It became personal. The next morning, Emma didn't show up. Ethan waited. Hours passed. Still nothing. By evening, He stood up abruptly. "Check on her," he quietly told one of his security men hidden across the street. 2 hours later, he received a message. Her mother had been admitted to the hospital again. Condition worse than before. Ethan clenched his jaw. He didn't think. He acted. That night, an anonymous donation cleared the hospital bill. The doctors, confused, continued treatment immediately. Emma was told someone had paid everything. She broke down crying in the hospital hallway. "I don't understand," she whispered to a nurse. "Who would do this for us?" No one had an answer. Except Ethan. From a distance, he watched her through security footage. And for the first time in his life, he felt something dangerous. Attachment. Days passed. Emma returned to the bench eventually. When she saw Daniel, she ran to him. "You won't believe what happened," she said breathlessly. He looked up. "What?" "Someone paid for my mom's treatment. All of it. Everything." Ethan kept his expression neutral. "That's good," he said quietly. Emma shook her head. "Good. It's unbelievable. I don't even know how to thank them." Ethan looked away. "I'm glad she's okay." Emma studied him closely. "Do you ever think someone's watching out for us even when we don't deserve it?" He hesitated. "Yes," he said softly. And for a moment, their eyes held something unspoken between them. Days turned into weeks. Their conversations grew longer, more personal. Emma talked about her childhood, her dreams of becoming a nurse, how life never went the way she planned. Ethan listened more than he had in years. One evening, Emma laughed harder than usual. "You know," she said, nudging him lightly, "you're not like other homeless people." He raised an eyebrow. "And how many do you know?" She smiled. "Enough to notice the difference." Ethan felt his chest tighten. If only she knew how right she was. That night, he walked away from her longer than usual. His security team followed at a distance. "Sir," one of them said through the earpiece, "you're getting too close emotionally." Ethan stopped walking. "I know. That wasn't part of the plan." Ethan's voice dropped. Plans change. Weeks later, Emma's situation worsened again. Her mother needed surgery. Urgent. Expensive. Immediate. Emma tried everything. Borrowing. Asking. Even begging at one point. Nothing worked. One night, Ethan found her sitting alone outside the hospital, crying quietly into her hands. He stood a few feet away, frozen. For the first time, he didn't know what to do as a billionaire. Or as Daniel. He stepped forward slightly. "Emma." She looked up quickly, wiping her tears. "I'm fine," she lied. He sat beside her. "You're not." Silence. Then she broke. "I'm trying so hard," she whispered. "But it's never enough. I just need one chance. One break." Ethan's hands tightened. Inside him, something snapped. He wanted to fix everything. Not as Daniel, but as Ethan Carter. But he couldn't. Not yet. So instead, he did the only thing he could. He stayed. Hours passed. Neither of them spoke much. But for Emma, it was the first time she didn't feel alone. And for Ethan, it was the first time money didn't matter more than presence. Before she left that night, she looked at him softly. "Thank you for staying." He nodded. "Always." She didn't hear the weight behind that word. But Ethan did. And as she walked away, his phone vibrated. A message from Michael. "You're getting too emotionally involved. End this before it goes wrong." Ethan stared at the message for a long time. Then he looked toward Emma disappearing into the dark street, and quietly said to himself, "It already has." If you're still watching the story, comment "True Love" below and don't forget to like and subscribe for part 3. Because what happens next will change everything you think you know about this man's experiment. Ethan should have ended it that day. That was what Michael kept telling him. But Ethan didn't listen. Instead, he kept going back to Emma. Every day. Against every rule of the experiment. Against every warning. Until the day everything collapsed. It started with an invitation. A charity gala hosted by one of Ethan's own companies. He had almost forgotten it was happening until Michael showed up in person. "You need to attend," Michael said firmly. Ethan frowned. I'm not going. You don't have a choice. Your name is still attached to it. Investors will be there. Press 2. Ethan stayed silent. Then Michael added, and Emma will be there too. They're hiring temporary staff. That stopped him. Emma. Ethan repeated, yes. This is exactly why you need to be careful. Ethan's chest tightened. For the first time, his two worlds were about to collide. That night, Emma arrived at the venue wearing a simple uniform, completely unaware of what was waiting inside. Bright lights, luxury cars, famous faces. She looked overwhelmed the moment she stepped in. This place is insane, she whispered to another worker. Meanwhile, Ethan stood in a private room above the hall, staring down at the crowd. His suit was back on. His watch. His real identity. The billionaire had returned. But something felt wrong. Because downstairs, Daniel no longer existed. Only Ethan Carter did. Sir, his assistant said carefully, you're on in 5 minutes. Ethan nodded slowly. His heart wasn't in it. But he walked out anyway. The hall clapped as he stepped onto the stage. Emma looked up casually at first, then froze. The microphone came alive. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder and CEO of Carter Global Enterprises, Ethan Carter. Silence. Then applause. Loud. Confident. Polished. Emma stopped breathing. Her eyes locked onto him. No, that couldn't be him. But it was. The same face she had shared food with. The same man she sat with on benches. The same person she cried in front of. Only now, he was standing on a stage like a completely different world. Her tray almost slipped from her hands. People around her kept clapping. But Emma wasn't clapping. She was staring. Shaking. Confused. Then hurt. Deep, unbearable hurt. When Ethan's speech ended, he stepped down from the stage. And the moment he reached the side corridor, he saw her. Emma stood there, waiting. Her eyes were red. Tell me it's not true, she whispered. Ethan stopped. For the first time in months, he had nothing to say. It's complicated, he began. Emma laughed once. A broken sound. Complicated, she repeated. You let me feed you from garbage bins. I cried in front of you. I told you about my mother. And you just watched me. No, Ethan said quickly. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? She snapped. He stepped closer. I was trying to find something real. Emma shook her head violently. So I was part of your experiment. The word hit him like a punch. Ethan's voice dropped.
No.
You were never just that. Then what was I? She demanded. Silence. And that silence answered everything. Emma stepped back. Her eyes filled with tears. You used me. I didn't use you, Ethan said, struggling. I cared about you. That was real. Emma wiped her face angrily. You lied to me every single day. I didn't lie about how I felt. But you lied about who you were. The hallway echoed with her voice. Ethan looked like he wanted to reach for her, but stopped himself. I was afraid, he admitted quietly. Afraid of what? Of being loved for the wrong reasons again. Emma stared at him like she didn't recognize him anymore. Then she whispered, So instead, you made sure I loved someone who didn't even exist. That broke him. Emma turned away. Don't follow me. Emma. Don't. And she walked out. Just like that. The connection they built shattered in seconds. 4 days after that, Ethan tried to reach her. Calls unanswered. Messages ignored. She had disappeared into silence. Michael finally confronted him. I told you this would happen. Ethan didn't respond. You can't build love on a lie, Michael continued. I didn't lie about my feelings, Ethan said sharply. But you lied about your identity. That's worse. Ethan said nothing. Because deep down, he knew Michael was right. Weeks passed. Ethan stopped going out as Daniel. Stopped the experiment entirely. But he couldn't stop thinking about her. Then one day, a letter arrived. No return address. Inside was a check. The full amount of money he had secretly paid for her mother's hospital care. And a note. I found out it was you. Ethan's hands trembled as he read further. But I am not angry about the money. I am angry that you didn't trust me with the truth. He swallowed hard. I loved Daniel, not Ethan Carter. And now I don't know what I lost, or what was real. His chest tightened painfully. He rushed out immediately, searching everywhere, until he finally found her. Not in a restaurant, not in a hospital, but in a small abandoned building on the edge of the city, turned into a shelter. Emma stood inside helping strangers eat, helping children sleep, helping people survive, on her own.
No luxury. No fame. No billionaire.
Just her. When she saw him, she didn't smile. She didn't cry. She just looked at him. Calm. Different. I don't need your money, she said softly. Ethan stepped forward. I didn't come to give you money. Then why are you here? His voice broke slightly. Because I lost the only thing that ever felt real. Emma looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, You didn't lose it. You tested it. Silence filled the room. Then she added, And love doesn't survive tests like that. Ethan closed his eyes. For the first time, he had no argument.
No explanation.
Just regret. Days later, Ethan made a decision. He publicly revealed everything. The experiment. The disguise. The truth. The world was shocked. But he didn't care anymore. Because none of that mattered. What mattered was what Emma had built. Inspired by her strength, Ethan funded shelters across the country. But he never forced his way into her life again. Months passed. Then one evening, Emma appeared at one of the shelters he helped fund. Ethan was there. They stood in silence for a long time. Then Emma finally spoke. You didn't ruin everything, she said quietly. Ethan looked at her. I almost did. She nodded. But you learned. A pause. Then she added softly. And so did I. For the first time in a long time, they both smiled. Not because everything was perfect, but because it was real. Months later, they got married. Not in a mansion. Not in front of cameras. But inside the same shelter where it all began. Surrounded by the people they helped together. And as Ethan looked at Emma standing beside him, he finally understood something he had spent his whole life searching for. Love was never about wealth. It was about truth. Before the video ends, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more emotional storytelling like this. And tell us in the comments, would you forgive a lie like this for real love?